A group's vacation turns into horror when they start seeing their own fates. In an abandoned mine, a woman desperately screams for help. She digs her hands under the door, calling for a man named Michael. Just then, Layla wakes up in their van, realizing that she merely had a bad dream. Michael suddenly peeps in, asking if she's okay. When Layla reassures him she's okay, he updates her about their current situation. Their friends are buying some food, while he claims to be the gas man. Layla chuckles, but then she asks Michael if he has taken his medication yet. Meanwhile, their friends, Lex, TJ, and Claire are at the counter buying snacks. However, they fail to notice the newspaper announcement outside, reporting that an unidentified girl was found dead in the forest. Elsewhere, Rose, another member of the group, buys corn from a native farmer who's wearing a snake necklace. When he asks where she's headed, Rose replies that she's going to a friend's cabin in a nearby forest. The man claims that he grew up there and that she should be careful of the wolves. Later on, the group goes on a picnic before hitting the road. The boys play football while the girls chat. Claire is upset that Lex, who's not part of their friend group, is joining the trip because he's TJ's cousin. However, Layla tells her that Lex is tagging along because he's looking after TJ, whose dad killed himself recently. After they hit the road, Lex asks their friend, Guy, if he'll keep staring at his phone. Guy simply replies that he's trying to juggle some job interviews. At night, the group is still traveling, so the others speculate that they're lost. Michael, who's driving, denies this, and as he defends himself, he almost runs over a man by the road. The car swerves, but no one gets hurt, though the man mysteriously disappears. Layla thinks they should go back and check on the man, but Claire protests, claiming that they might run into a local serial killer. The group continues their journey, but they don't make it far when the car suddenly breaks down. When Michael checks on it, he finds that the radiator has been ruptured from the previous incident. With about 2 miles left until they reach the cabin, the group decides to travel on foot. On their way, Layla asks Michael if he took his meds. He claims to have left it in the car, but assures her that he'll go back for it in the morning. As they continue, they see the northern lights, although they're too far in the south. Nevertheless, Lex thinks it's amazing and wants a photo of him with the lights. However, it disappears before he even gets a snap. Suddenly, TJ finds a cabin with its lights on, so he and Rose go to see if anyone is home. When no one answers, they enter the cabin through the back door. As they roam around, they find a note on the counter. Just then, TJ and Rose burst out of the front door, screaming at everyone to run. Everyone screams, but the other two burst out in laughter. It turns out that they found the correct cabin that their friends Matt and Sarah own, and they left a note saying they'll be back in a bit. The group laughs over their prank, then enter the cabin to get settled. Everyone is amazed by its interior, but then they retract their excitement when the power goes off. Because of this, Michael and TJ head out to check the generator. There's barely any fuel, but they're lucky to find some that might get them through the night. Later, the group gathers in the living room with some snacks and booze. However, Guy claims that someone is outside, so the group falls quiet. Just then, they hear a loud thump by the door, so the boys decide to check it out. However, no one is there, so Guy reassures everyone that it's just a fallen pinecone. Meanwhile, Michael goes to the generator to load it with more fuel. However, he seems dazed and bothered when he returns to the cabin. Layla approaches him and notices blood on his face. Michael claims that he just tripped, then decides to go to bed. The rest of the group resumes their little party, and they all get drunk. Meanwhile, Michael tosses and turns on his bed, dreaming of his friends calling him from inside a mine. In the dream, he also sees himself disposing of a body. Just then, he snaps out of the dream and sees Layla sleeping in his arms. She wakes up and asks if he's okay, and Michael says he had a nightmare. He then kisses her, which ultimately leads to them copulating. The next morning, Rose asks Michael what he was doing outside last night. However, Michael denies going out. Later, the group gathers for breakfast. Lex keeps talking about how great of a team player Layla was last night, and he can only imagine how great she is in bed. This pisses Michael off, so he gets up to put his dishes in the sink. Just then, he remembers their friends Matt and Sarah and how they should have returned by now. TJ walks into the dining room, telling everyone that they need to see something. Right away, the group heads to the woods with flashlights in hand. As they continue walking, Layla reminds Michael to take his meds from the van. Michael reassures her that he'll be fine and that he never stopped taking his meds. Meanwhile, Lex gives Rose some mushrooms to get high. Not long after, the group arrives at an abandoned mine where they find a sign written in blood saying, "Break the cycle." This doesn't stop the group from entering. Near the entrance, Rose sees an Ouroboros symbol on the wall, but the group dismisses this ominous warning. As they go deeper into the mine, Rose and Lex stray from the group. Meanwhile, the others find a wrecked bridge, but they feel an eerie vibe, so they decide to leave. They then go on to find Lex and Rose. As they do so, the boys discover a small room that is supposed to protect the miners if the walls collapse. When Michael enters it, he sees writings on the wall, saying, "This is the first time." Just then, Guy and TJ close the door behind him as a prank. Layla arrives and attempts to open it, but they suddenly worry when the door gets stuck. Elsewhere, Rose and Lex try to figure their way back to the group. Someone suddenly walks behind them and Rose feels it. Meanwhile, the others finally manage to get Michael out. Angry, Michael forcefully pushes TJ, who's apologizing for the prank. At the other side of the mine, Rose sees blood smeared on the floor. She screams and runs into a small room where a mysterious figure grabs her leg. Her scream reaches the others, and this leads to her being reunited with them. Lex appears behind her, wondering what the fuss is about. The group returns to the cabin, where Lex explains that he only wanted to scare everyone, but they got lost. Guy says that Rose claims something grabbed her, but Lex admits that he gave her mushrooms, which might have caused her to hallucinate. TJ laughs and the rest of the boys leave, disappointed. Meanwhile, the girls gather in one room, where Rose reveals her injury from where the figure grabbed her. However, she's the only one who sees it. While Layla and her boyfriend head to the van to take his medicine, TJ shares with Lex that Michael freaked out in the mine. Lex says it's expected because he has schizophrenia and didn't take his meds last night. On their way to the van, Michael suddenly asks Layla if their friends would hurt him. Despite the odd question, she reassures him that they won't. Soon, they reach the van, only to find the door open. They try to turn the engine on, but they only confirm that it's beyond repair. Just then, Layla sees blood on the van's fender, so she assumes that they might have hit an animal last night. She tells Michael to keep this to themselves since everyone is in shock back in the cabin. They soon return to the group to inform them that the van is done for. Rose thinks they should leave immediately, but TJ explains that they should wait until Sarah and Matt return. To start their activities, Claire asks everyone to head to the lake, but Lex suggests returning to the mine where he dropped his wallet. While Lex and TJ have fun in the mine, Layla gets in her bikini to join Claire in the lake. However, Rose calls them and shows the Ouroboros symbol from a book. She reads that the Ouroboros symbolizes death and rebirth, a cycle that cannot be extinguished. Feeling strange, she tells the girls that she needs fresh air. Outside, she closes her eyes and sees a vision of Michael choking Guy. When she opens her eyes, she sees a bloody vision of Guy running towards her. Rose starts screaming when she gets inside the cabin. She also sees the man's bloody handprint on the glass door, but the others don't see it. They try to calm her down, and Guy suggests that she must be having a bad trip. However, Rose replies that she's always been a psychic, but spirits don't usually scare her like that. Still, she reassures them that she's fine and that they should go swimming. Guy refuses to leave her, so Michael tells everyone to go to the lake while he stays behind. Soon, while Michael tends to Rose, she gets scared as she sees him covered in dirt and blood. At the mine, TJ and Lex discover a corpse inside a cart with the same tattoo as the latter. When Lex uncovers it, he sees his own lifeless body. Just then, TJ finds another dead body which happens to be himself. They also find Guy's corpse, which ultimately drives them to leave. Meanwhile, the others return to the cabin. Lex and TJ follow shortly after and hesitantly reveal that they saw their own dead bodies along with Guy's. Guy gets pissed that they're making the situation worse, so he demands they come with him to the mine to prove that they're just on a trip. The rest goes with them except for Layla, who's tending to Rose. At the cabin, Rose sees a vision of Michael getting rid of a body. She suddenly wakes up and tells Layla that they shouldn't have gone back to the mine because it's not their world. Elsewhere, Guy and Claire discover that TJ and Lex's claims are true. That evening, Rose suddenly screams as she sees Layla's rotting face. In her attempt to get away, she trips and loses consciousness. The rest of the group returns, only to be greeted by Rose, saying that they need to break the cycle. Guy calms her down and they put her to bed. Later, the group discusses the possibilities, including the fact that they might be dead already. Lex thinks they died when the car swerved, but Guy thinks he's being stupid. The two almost get into a fight, but the others stop them. Lex then explains to TJ that they're dealing with the supernatural, so they decide to go back to the mine to understand how to break the cycle. Meanwhile, Michael feels uneasy, so he brews himself some tea but puts poison in it. He then brings it to his room and mulls over drinking it. Eventually, he checks the bedside table and finds a red crayon. Elsewhere, Lex and TJ enter the mine with weapons in hand. When they open it, they find Claire inside, muttering Michael's name. TJ wants to bring Claire with them, but Lex stops him, saying that the real Claire is back in the cabin. In the cabin, Michael hears his own voice in his head, telling him that his friends will betray him. Meanwhile, Rose wakes up and sees Layla and Claire's rotting faces. She then mumbles, "Stop Michael," before blacking out again. Michael, on the other hand, drops a rope from his window. Downstairs, TJ returns and kisses Claire, saying that he was worried about her. As she asks what they saw in the mine, Lex appears and says they'll discuss it with the group. Everyone, except for Michael and Rose, gathers in the kitchen. There, Lex and TJ reveal that they saw another Claire alive and that she warned them about Michael. With this, TJ and Lex find Michael in his room. Seeing them with a rope, he merely confirms that it's time, as this is how it happens. The two ask what he means, but he doesn't explain. They tie Michael's hands with a rope and bring him downstairs to make him confess, but he refuses to. Despite Layla's protest, the group decides to confine Michael in the mine. The boys lead him there, and before they enter, Michael says that this is the second time. After locking him in a room, they return to the cabin. There, Rose suddenly appears to warn them that Michael escaped before collapsing. Elsewhere, Michael has truly escaped. As he goes to the bridge in the mine, it's suddenly not broken like when they first saw it. Not long after, TJ, Lex, and Claire head back to the mine to confirm if Michael is still locked up. Guy asks Layla to catch up with the others, but she refuses to leave Rose. Unbeknownst to them, Rose is convulsing upstairs, which leads to her death. In the mine, the trio discovers the unlocked door. Michael suddenly reveals himself and they end up chasing him. They reach the bridge, where Michael carefully treads on the side, careful not to walk in the rotten parts. Lex, however, walks right through it and falls to his death. Upon witnessing Rose's death, Guy and Layla decide to leave and save themselves, thinking the others are already dead. However, they leave a casual-sounding note on the counter, afraid that the others might return and think they abandoned them. Meanwhile, Michael carefully walks above TJ and Claire as they look for him. Just then, he pushes a cart which lands on TJ and kills him. Now alone, Claire aimlessly walks through the mine. She eventually reaches a room, but Michael appears and locks her inside. Elsewhere, Guy and Layla walk on the road. They spot a van, so Guy tells Layla to stay on the side of the road while he tries to wave his hands for help. The van swerves to miss him, but it hits Layla instead. He immediately runs to her, but she's barely alive. However, Guy has identified the people in the van as themselves from the first night, so he decides that it's up to him to break the cycle. With this, he apologizes and leaves Layla. In the mine, Michael hides Lex and TJ's bodies. He puts it in the room where he was locked up earlier and writes, "This is the first time." After this, he heads to the cabin and places the red crayon that he used in his bedside drawer. Afterward, he enters a bedroom, where he finds Rose's corpse. Suddenly, he hears someone calling from downstairs, and it's TJ and Rose, dressed like how they were on their first night in the cabin. He hurriedly wraps the other Rose's body in a blanket and tosses it downstairs. Meanwhile, TJ and Rose discover the note that Guy and Layla wrote before leaving, and assume that it's from Matt and Sarah instead. Meanwhile, Guy stops by the News Cycle's abandoned van to drink water. However, he leaves the door open before heading to the cabin. In the mine, Claire sees another version of herself crawling toward her. Finally, Guy makes it to the cabin, but all he can do is bang on the door before Michael knocks him out and slits his throat. At the same time, the new version of the group goes out to investigate as they did before. Michael then leaves Guy at the mine entrance, where the dying man writes, "Break the cycle with his own blood." Meanwhile, Michael returns to the cabin to confront himself, saying that everyone, except for Layla, will betray him. He tells them that they won't let him out alive the second time they lock him up at the mine. He then hands him a key, telling his past self to defend himself. After this, he returns to the mine to hide Guy's body, leaving his other version confused. Later, the new Michael returns to the cabin, and the next series of events unfold as they did the first time. When everyone goes to bed, he goes outside, not knowing that Rose sees him. He soon meets up with his other self, who forces him to burn his antipsychotics. In the mine, Claire remains, desperately calling for Michael to let her out. The next day, another cycle begins and the group is in the gas station. Just then, Layla reveals herself to her counterpart, having survived the accident, thus giving her a chance to finally stop the cycle.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.